Bada bing, bada boom, we're back. All right, we need to talk about the Denver Nuggets. All right, Denver Nuggets. I said that crazy. Um, they got some issues. They got some issues, and it might be time to kind of break some things up. We're gonna run some highlights here in the background, but it might be time to break things up. And when I say break things up, there's different extents of that are possibilities. We don't know which one's going to happen yet. But let's just talk about what happened in this year's playoffs. So this year's playoffs was terrible, right? Going into the Timberwolves series, before Ayo Dosunmu's injury, before Anthony Edwards' injury, and before Dante's injury, the Nuggets were favored. The Nuggets were favored. They already were down Peyton Watson, right? Peyton Watson's an integral part of their team. He's huge. I'm not even sure if I use that word right. He's massively important for that team, and not having him is almost, I mean, it really makes or breaks your team, right? When you don't have Peyton Watson, you got to have Strother playing well. He's kind of like your Peyton Watson-esque. Like when Peyton Watson's not in the game, you usually have Julian Strother in the game. Very similar. They have slightly different play styles, but they're both long, they're both athletic, right? And they need that long athleticism. They need that defense. They need that dynamicism. It's people who can run the floor, people who can kind of change things up, right? The Nuggets had the number one offense in this year's regular season, and they got torched in the playoffs. Against the Timberwolves, I think I wrote this down, so I do have some notes here. They took how many less shots? 19 less shots than the Timberwolves. Now, I understand if one game you have more turnovers than the other team. I understand if they out offensive rebound you. But when that happens to such an extent that by the end of the series, you have taken 19 less shots than them, you know what I mean? If those are three balls, that could be 60 points. Now, obviously, it's not going to equate that way, but that you can't win a game like that. You cannot win a game like that. Bad decision making, poor rebounding. It seemed like rebounding was optional out there. No grit, no toughness, no defense. Everything was just very bland. It was very bland. And now listen, they didn't have Aaron Gordon a lot. Um, I don't even remember how much they had him, if they had him at all. I I mean, this series is a blur. You know what I mean? Because the Nuggets were just getting torched. Christian Braun, they paid him 125 million on the extension in I think October, and he just didn't show up. He just was not there in this series. And literally he was there, but he was terrible. He was terrible. And it's not even that he was just going 0 for 18, or that sounds crazy, 0 for 11 or like 4 for 18. No, he was just not aggressive, and he was not leading. It's kind of like what he said. Honestly, I don't hate it because he was not leading. I think he is the leader of that team in the sense that he provides them that grit, that toughness, that defense, that countermeasure to when other teams are kind of riling you up. Christian Braun makes things work, right? Uh, at, sorry, the highlights in the background are a little distracting because Jokic is so special. Peyton Watson is so nice, but they missed his athleticism so much. They missed his length. But let's see what else I put. Jokic averaged a 25-point triple double, right? But if you watch this series, he wasn't himself. He just was not himself. And, they need him to be himself. His shooting splits will tell the story. And, I'm not sure what his turnovers look like, but he was still great. He's still the best player in the world, at least, one of them, if not the. And so he was still great, but the rest of the team just didn't show up. Jamal Murray, his shot was not falling at the most important time. You know what I mean? And Jokic and Murray got picked apart on defense. I mean, I think it was the night after McDaniel says Jokic is bad at defense. Jamal is bad at defense. Cam Johnson's bad at defense. Everybody on that team is bad at defense. He then dropped like a 30-point, almost triple double with blocks, steals, all that. His team got torched. They did not want it as much. Tim Hardaway Jr., who's acted crazy, and I mean that in a good way, like he's just acted like he's young again here towards, the end of the year, was not exactly that. Now, he was still nice. He was one of their only bright spots at certain points, but, he cannot be your heavy lifter. He cannot be the second option to Jokic because Jamal Murray's shot is hidden. Cam Johnson's got to be better. Hardaway's got to hit more shots. He's got to be more aggressive. Christian Braun has got to be more aggressive, especially when you're lacking your athleticism, your defense, and all the things that you provide that only two other players provide. They're out and you don't show up. You cannot win like that. You cannot win like that. They had the biggest out of all the playoff teams. They had the biggest drop in 3-point percentage, relative to the regular season, right? So that's a part of it. If you shoot poorly, it's hard to win games. But you combine that with not rebounding. You combine that with very predictable play, very slow play, not aggressive, bad defense. And it's not that they weren't trying on defense, they were just getting picked apart. If you have Jamal Murray and Jokic out there, you've got to have 3 primetime defenders next to him. Like, we should understand that by now. And now I know part of it's circumstance, right? I know part of it's circumstance. But if you're the Nuggets and you say, hey, even though we had players out some of the time, certain players that didn't play the whole series, with as much as we're paying this team and as talented as we are, if we can't beat the Timberwolves with one of their very core pieces out, Dante is huge. If you watch this year, Dante is amazing. They had Dante out. They didn't have Anthony Edwards for a while, right? Ayo Dosunmu was hurt for a while. If you can't beat that team that is comically, injured, I think you have to ask some questions about what's next. I think it's time. They tried to pick up Bruce Brown. I understand the concept of it. You're trying to get some more athleticism, some grit, some defense, somebody who can switch it up, get in the full court and run it a little bit. But he's older. He's not the Bruce Brown he was when y'all traded him or let him go or whatever. No, that's what it was. They let him go. They let him walk, or maybe he decided to walk. I don't even remember. Point is, he's not the same player he was when they won that championship. And so his team's just too expensive not to be winning playoff series. Multiple of them. They're way too expensive. And I think Denver's going to consider that. I mean, do you want to pay this level of a roster, this level of money, and consistently go over the luxury tax to be mediocre? And that's what the CBA has kind of done to teams this year, is like it kind of knocks down the teams who are flying too high close to the sun, right? In the sense that, like, if you're not like a main competitor, you have no incentive to pay your roster. Yeah, to the extent that like you'll be really good but not great. You don't have much incentive. You're almost better off rebuilding at that point or doing something closer to what the Thunder are doing and trying to get pieces and keep them. It's not like college where your guys are just going to transfer after a year. I mean, if you get guys, rookies, whatever, rookie scale contract guys, you can really work with a roster like that. They don't have good vets off the bench. Most teams have some vets on vet minimums off the bench who are core pieces of your team, right? Jordan Clarkson for the Knicks. Like, that's just one example. I was talking about it with Buddy in the comments. Shout out, bro. He made a good point too. But you have to have those like really good, small contract players. And you definitely have to have athleticism off the bench. I mean, at some point, the Denver Nuggets have got to realize what the equation is. If you got Jokic in the equation, you got Murray in the equation, what do you need? You need length, athleticism, defense, blah, blah, blah. Let's go with SLAP, the size, length, athleticism thing. You need that. You truly need that. And it can't just be baseline cuts and fast breaks from Christian Braun and everything else is half court, Jokic or catch and shoot. It can't. And if it is going to be that, Cam Johnson's got to shoot the leather off the ball. Christian Braun's got to hit shots consistently. Tim Hardaway's got to, get open and maneuver off the ball. Spencer Jones can hit a 3 from the corner, but man, is that thing ugly. You're just not a very deep team. You're not a very well-constructed team. I mean, when everybody's healthy and you look at Peyton Watson, Christian Braun, and Gordon next to Jokic and Murray, that's a super solid. But what do you have as backups? You know what I mean? Spencer Jones is pretty good. Um, I like Julian Strother. Uh, Daron Holmes is okay, but like, what else do you have? Bruce Brown's okay. What else do you have? So it's like, look at these other teams that are real competitors. Look at the Spurs. Who do they have coming off the bench? Yeah, Keldon Johnson, Dylan Harper, and Luke Cornett. It's a big difference. Look at the Thunder. Woo! Their 12th man is probably better than the Nuggets' 6th, And so, I'm not thinking specifically, but listen, Peyton Watson is a restricted free agent this offseason. And we got to make this quick because the highlights are going to run out. Maybe I'll just talk, after. He's a restricted free agent this offseason. And the issue with that is usually you just keep your player, you know what I mean? But Peyton Watson is so good, and there's a lot of teams with cap space, right? You think about the Lakers, you think about the Wizards, right? The Wizards would be a big pursuer. I mean, that would be huge for him. That would make their team go from good to like really good. And then you have like lesser teams that just need to fill some cap, like the Nets or the Bulls. Um, so you do have teams, he has a big market. And the problem right now is if you're not getting rid of somebody, you do not have the money to match what one of those teams will give him. And that's huge. If you lose Peyton Watson off this team, I'm not sure that this is a great team. I'm not sure that they're even very good. I think they're just good. I think they're okay, above average. And so you can't lose Peyton Watson. So what are the means of keeping him, of being able to match those deals, assuming that they happen, which they probably will. I mean, I think they will. You could get rid of Cam Johnson, right? He's only got 1 year left on his contract, so he's an expiring. I'm not sure if you'd have to use a pick to get him off. And that's the other thing. The Nuggets have one tradable first round pick in the next 5 years. With this team, that's tough, man. They're not set up well for the future. I mean, they are with Jokic. I mean, Jokic is generational. But, these guys aren't going to be around forever. And at some point, you have to be like, all right, what can we do to win? What can we do to get back in contention? And so you could probably trade Cam Johnson. You could trade Christian Braun and a pick, get off his salary, and hopefully get someone better. But getting someone better on a low salary, like there's only so many guys in the NBA. There are certain cases where like you have a really good case, or it's just like a super valuable contract, right? There's not a whole lot of them, and the ones that exist are not usually easily given up. So Christian Braun and a first round pick, Christian Braun's great, but if this team's not a competitor, I mean, what's the value for them, you know? So Cam Johnson, I think, is more likely in the sense that he only has 1 year left. A team can kind of take him as like a rental, right? A competing team, obviously, to be like, all right, does this guy fit with us? Is he going to have a good year? If so, we can re-sign him. If not, whatever. I think he makes like 22 million, man. That's a lot of money. That's 10 vet minimums. You know what I mean? 9 vet minimums. Now, I'm not saying you're trying to fill your roster with vet minimums, but you understand where I'm going with that. And so it's like, it's tough. It's tough. They're going to have a tough offseason. They got some decisions to make, and the other option is you really blow it up and you trade Murray or Gordon. And I don't think you're trading Gordon because he's just so good at whatever the heck you need. You can do everything. And he's such a smart player. He's so good with Jokic, as you see there. I don't think they trade Gordon. So if it would be anybody, it'd be Murray. Right, you'd trade Murray for somebody hopefully who's still a good offensive piece, but can hold their own defensively, and then you have less ground to make up on defense with those lineups and whatnot. Or you just let Peyton Watson walk in restricted free agency. You don't match the highest bid, and you allocate that money elsewhere. My goodness, got it. But geez, I got a lot of gas in my chest. But yeah, I mean, that's the other option. You allocate money elsewhere. And I don't think, if you're in their front office and you have a brain, I don't think you want to do that. I don't. I mean, Peyton Watson's that nice. And he's that nice. On certain teams, I think he could probably be an all-star. On certain teams, he could probably also be all defense. Probably on this team. It'll probably happen at some point. Mind you, now that he's taken more of an offensive workload, it's a little bit harder. That's another story. But yeah, like I said, I had a couple notes here. I'm not sure if there's really anything huge of note that I didn't say. Can they get vets on small contracts with athleticism. Um, I'm not sure who those people would be, but there's definitely plenty of them. Ooh, there's definitely plenty of them. So, what does the front office do? Do they consider trading Gordon or Murray? Do they let Peyton walk? They trade CB in a pick. Do they trade Johnson? Maybe at a pick, maybe not. Um, do they, like I said, keep Peyton Watson and kind of like maintain the roster? Mind you, like I said, if you're going to do that, it's got to be, sorry, it's got to be, if you're going to do that, it has to be, you have to let Cam Johnson go. You have to let Christian Braun go. One of the two, maybe both, right? You're probably getting rid of, there's probably a contract or two on the bench you don't like. You could also trade Julian Strother. He definitely has like a market. You could trade Daron Holmes, probably has a market as a backup big. Zeke Naji does not have a market. And we've seen a consistent thing with these guys, right? Like them betting on guys like Zeke Naji and it not really working out. I don't think the Nuggets front office is terrible. I don't think they're great. I think they've had something special, and that special, it's timeline. It's on the end of that timeline. You got to decide, like, all right, do we believe that like this team can truly compete with the Thunder and Spurs in the next 2 years, 3 years? Do you? Because I don't. I don't. I've watched the Thunder. I've watched the Spurs. Now the Spurs aren't Thunder level yet, but they might be in a couple years, or they might at least be, on that echelon. And so you have to make huge decisions, right? It's not that this team's just terrible that you have to blow everything up or it's do or die. That's not necessarily the case. But if you're the front office and you're gonna pay this amount of money for a roster, like this, you want it to be better. You want to make some moves. And so I think there's going to be some moves made for Denver this offseason. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cam Johnson shipped. I wouldn't be surprised, if Christian Braun and that pick is shipped. Is it a great idea to ship, the only tradable pick in the next 5 years? That's up to the eye of the beholder. For many, no. But for them, you got Jokic. If worst came to worst, you could trade Jokic for, all the picks in existence. I'm joking. But like you understand what I'm saying. So um, they've got some decisions to make. So Denver Nuggets, they went out bad. If you're a fan of them, let me know. Drop it down in the comments, like what you think, where you're gonna go. If what would you? Jeez, my bad. What would you want if you're a Denver Nuggets fan, or even if you're not? Just let me know. Like, do you think you keep PW or Peyton Watson? Do you think you keep CB, Christian Braun? Do you keep Cam Johnson? Are all those guys gone? Is Peyton Watson back and those guys are gone? Is there anybody that you would specifically want to see on this team as like a, somebody who really complements this roster? Is it worth paying this money? I mean, obviously it's easy for us to say it is. We're not the people owning it, making money, losing money, whatever. Um, so yeah, let me know. Let me know. Drop a comment down in the comments, and appreciate you tuning in. Peace.